Duron Chavis, and I'm a board member for Groundwork RVA. One of the best parts of working with Groundwork is the fact that we give opportunities for youth, inner city youth, to connect to the land, to connect to nature, but in practical, applicable ways. We got a lot of social issues in our community, but many of them are related to, the built environment, inequities in the built environment in particular. And Groundworks has been on the forefront of giving experiential learning opportunities for predominantly Black youth to transform the built environment in ways that build equity for a community. One of the prime examples of that is the work that the organization does around green infrastructure. So for the last probably 2-3 years, the work that I do in community around food justice and climate resiliency has intersected squarely with Groundworks as we've gone through numerous sites throughout the region, developing solutions for stormwater management as well as urban heat island effect. We've partnered on numerous green spaces where the youth have had an opportunity to build permeable pathways, do rainwater catchment systems, even the first initial kind of work around urban heat island effect, we did tree plantings at various sites around the city. And so those three examples serve as some very practical, very commonplace opportunities for us to mitigate stormwater, but giving the youth an opportunity to deal with that really gives them transferable skills. It also gives them a hand in transforming their own community, which they could always look back and say, hey, I was a part of that intervention that had X impact in my community that I can quantify. Like, you can measure how much water was captured off of a site, how many trees were planted. You can measure how the air quality has been improved, how the water quality has, how much water has been captured on that space. And then even with the permeable pathways, I mean, that's a really important way of keeping spaces aesthetically appealing, while at the same time addressing the fact that we need to keep water from out of the Chesapeake Bay, out of the rivers, when we have these heavy rainfalls.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that skill set of permeable pathway, like, we hadn't really understood that until we started connecting with the projects that you were working on.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, what we've realized is the ability to put those kinds of projects in the ground is a sought after skill set. So we're able to do that in a variety of ways, and that came directly out of this partnership. One of the things I was curious about, I mean, we work with young people, right? So when you see young people able to do these kinds of things, what's that do for you?
Well, on one level, it signifies for me like a kind of an intergenerational conversation. We do a lot of work around social justice. We've been doing a lot of work around social justice. But getting kids, young adults, I should say, not kids, getting young adults involved in the conversation, not just from a rhetorical standpoint, is of uber importance. We got able-bodied young men and women who don't like to be talked to about this stuff. Like, they want to do something. So it gives me great joy to be a part of a process that allows them to get out of an academic, scientific headspace and put boots on the ground and get their hands dirty to actually remedy the issues that we're talking about. So that's one. Two, giving or preparing a space for youth, young adults to assume leadership is of, I can't stress how important that is, because, I'm 40, I'm turning, I'm getting older, so creating a space for them to understand these issues and then have the lived experience of actually doing something about it puts them in a position to be able to speak articulately, speak truth to power. They know what the issues are. They know what can be done about it. So, it puts me in a position to be able to step back and then, hey, you don't have to talk to me. Talk to the people that are actually in closest proximity to the issue, but are also professional and experts on how to address the issue. So those two things, like, getting young adults practical experience with the issues and hands-on experience with it, and then creating a space where they are able to express their leadership in that space is of paramount importance. I think we need way more opportunities for young adults to actually be leaders and have the experience with implementing solutions to address these inequities.
And that's what Fund Black Futures in Green is all about, right? It's about taking what we've done and being able to provide that opportunity to many more young folks, because we know that there are a lot more folk out there that want to be engaged than can be engaged, right? So another question I kind of had was around agency and how you see kind of resiliency and agency showing up in community. I've got my own thoughts, but I'm curious.
Yeah, well, one of the very clear examples of how resiliency and agency intersect has been in this COVID response work that we've been doing. Groundworks has played a very intimate role to our Resiliency Garden project, where we've been delivering raised beds to community throughout the Richmond region in response to the COVID crisis, right? And what that means is that, as food insecurity issues rise to high priority levels, we already knew it was an issue before, but with people losing their jobs and, food shortages and higher prices for food in grocery stores, it's important for us to figure out ways that community can take control of their food. And hearing the youth, the young adults in Groundworks express that they wanted to play an active role in those acts of food justice where people are able to grow their own food was very endearing to me. And then to see them, connect with cutting the wood and building the boxes and helping folks do deliveries and things of that nature has been very emblematic of what agency looks like. Because if in all, case in point, I can give you food, right? Someone can come drop some food off to you, but if I drop a raised bed on you and give you seeds, then you can grow as much food as you like. And I think that as an act of agency or an expression of agency is something that the young adults in Groundworks were speaking to when they were talking about, hey, we want to get into community, connect with community, talk to community, help community address some of their most pressing needs, and them understanding that one of those pressing needs was food, right? And the whole food desert conversation being something that maybe they didn't have all the language to be able to articulate, but they know that people want to grow something, people want to eat healthy, but they might not have access to that food. So the resiliency part about it is that, in this scenario, most times people talk about climate resiliency, but when you just unpack resiliency period, the fact that, we're in the middle of this pandemic, we're trying to figure out ways to meet people's needs and help people move from a state of just surviving to thriving. The youth at Groundworks participating in, the building of infrastructure in community for people to express self-determination through food production and gardening and urban farming. We're looking at a space here that is part and parcel a result of Groundworks intervention. that is, I think, the type of work that really is about Black futures. Because it's here in this space that we're imagining what community spaces can look like, can be like, can feel like, can function as. You know, even in the midst of a crisis, the utility of spaces
Right.
such as this gives, you know, a new option or a new process for people to practice their agency upon socially distanced and all the other things, you know, under consideration, of course. But I feel like the youth demanding / really like pressing for that, and Groundworks is a perfect storm, right, so to speak, of alignments, because A, we're able to do food justice, B, we're able to do climate resilience, you know, and those two worlds are often, you know, looked at as separate entities, but with the kids seeing it as something that was one and the same, where they can express, you know, the urban heat island effect stuff, the stormwater management stuff, and the food access stuff all at the same time. I think that's riveting, and I think that's really pioneering work.